And now, News 4's Weather Extra.
Welcome into Weather Extra on this Wednesday evening. Meteorologist Ryan Duggar along my side. I don't like fog. How do you feel about fog?
You know, fog, sometimes it gets really intense. I remember there was this one time where we and my family had to drive from a New Year's party, and so it was dead of night, everyone's out trying to get home, and the fog in Georgia that night was super intense. You couldn't see like 15 feet in front of you.
That's bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
really bad.
You have no choice but to go really, really slow when it is foggy. And that's a concern here for the coming mornings as well. So why is fog all of a sudden in the forecast every single night? Here's meteorologist Zach Webster.
We've seen several areas of patchy, dense fog all across the region over the last couple of mornings, and it looks like that'll continue to stick around as we head throughout the rest of this week. Let's take a little bit of a deeper dive as to why this is happening each morning, and a quick shout out to Chief Meteorologist David Paul for kind of putting the idea of this visualization together. So you wind up with warmer, more moist air over the Gulf. Then winds that are blowing from out of the southeast and out of the south help to push more of that warm, moist air inland out across the Gulf Coast and farther along across the southeast and the deep south. So you wind up with a situation where you have warmer, moist air starting to move over a relatively cooler ground. And when that happens, that's another one of those ways that we can get fog to develop across the region. Again, you have that warm, moist air that moves over a relatively cooler ground. That cooler ground causes that warm, moist air to condense and thus form fog. This kind of fog is called advection fog. It's a little bit different from the fog that we're used to seeing around the area. Radiation fog, clear skies, light winds, you get the temperatures to drop close to the dew point, boom, fog develops. This is a little bit different. Advection fog, unlike radiation fog, can form when the winds are still blowing and even when there's still clouds in the sky, because the process that helps to develop that fog is different. In fact, it's the winds that helps to bring that warm, moist air over that relatively cooler ground. That's what helps to create that fog, and you can also keep those conditions in place for advection fog for several days on end. A big reason why we're continuing to track the potential for fog sticking around the region over the next few days.
Good explainer there. The average low temperature in January, we were just looking right around 32 degrees. That ground was chilled.
It was chilled. I mean, for much of the month. So, I mean, we're into early February. It's not hard to believe that even though we're seeing temperatures in the 70s, even closer to 80, it takes a while for the ground to kind of reciprocate that.
Yeah, so think about the summertime. You take it's a weekend, it's hot outside, you take a cold drink out of the refrigerator, and all of a sudden you get the condensation all over it. It's the same thing that is happening. The ground is cold, warm, humid air coming in from the Gulf is producing fog each and every morning. And check it out, as we go through the overnight, that fog southward will be spreading northward as we go through time, and that will lead to some areas of dense fog tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. generally looking at a visibility of a half mile or less, but within that area in the Wiregrass, we could see some spots down to a quarter mile or less. Tomorrow during the day, fine, but tomorrow evening, tomorrow night, guess what, Ryan?
More of that fog. More of that fog develops. And for roadways, especially highways, for that dense fog, this can prove to be pretty hazardous. So it's very important to slow down, don't use your brights because that can distort the light. But I've seen maybe people have their hazards on just to kind of at least blink out there if the fog is really dense.
Exactly. Same thing as we go into Friday night, early Saturday morning. This model stops at midnight, but even at that point, the I-10 corridor, for example, could see that visibility down to a half mile or less. So just like Ryan said, use your low beam headlights. Go slow in the fog because you just don't know what's ahead of you. You just can't see what's out in front of you. And the worst times will be in the hours before daybreak and then about an hour or two after daybreak. Well, hey, coming up next, we're going to break down some of the rain stats for the Wiregrass in recent months. And Ryan and I did a little walk around downtown as well. That information is coming up next.
And now, News 4's Weather Extra.
Welcome back into Weather Extra. Hey, happy National Weather Person's Day.
I know, isn't that great? And I got a lot of comments and messages today, and I want to say thank you to everyone that reached out. It's always a pleasure to track the weather for you, and really great appreciation. We love it as much as it comes in.
When I go to schools, I say, I love the weather when I was about this tall in third grade, and I still love the weather today. So, yeah, I mean, when I was a little boy, I get to do it as a career. It's fun. Let's talk rain, because rain has been hard to come by We had some snow, record-setting snow
Yes.
this winter, but as far as rain goes, not much. Let's check out the graphic here. Since the beginning of the year, actual amount 2.74 compared to normal, that is down about 2.81 inches, essentially half the amount of rainfall of what's normal so far this year. And if you go back to the beginning of meteorological winter, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, and we've been really watching that. And like you said with the snow, I mean, even though you were looking at snowfall amounts of 6 inches, you're talking about compressing all of
Right.
that water down. So in essence, it's not that much
About
water.
a half an inch of liquid.
Right, and we're always, usually at this time of year, kind of looking for severe events. We just haven't seen that, so
No.
we need some rain.
We
pretty
need
quickly.
some rain, certainly. And we walked around downtown. There's some construction going on. You can tell the ground is dry. Have a look.
We move dirt every day, a lot of it.
Ben Matthews is working on a project in downtown Dothan.
Just had a big excavation in the back, pulled a bunch out.
He's not just scratching the surface here, he's digging way down.
We went about 10 to 12 foot.
So going that deep, what did you notice as far as soil moisture going down?
Once we got down to the bottom, there was some, especially from the snow runoff. But up until really that, it's been pretty dry.
From a construction standpoint, the drier than normal winter is a blessing. More work and less downtime.
That's a lot easier when it's drier. So,
So you prefer the dryness?
oh yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny because it depends on how you look at it. The glass is half full, half empty.
Right.
If you're working outdoors and you need to get work done, the drier winter is perfect.
That's something that I've taken into account while doing the weather. One thing that's good for other people, it's not necessarily great for everyone else.
Yeah.
And so it's something to always think about as
Some
well.
people like the cold, some people like
Yeah.
the warm air. Right now it's warm. Okay, let's go to the graphic here. Let's look at the potential for rain next week. I was hinting at this earlier in my main weathercast. This is using the GFS ensemble, so you have many different runs of the GFS kind of put together into one. And looking towards next Tuesday, Wednesday, this ends next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Notice the model here, or all the models, cranking out some pretty good moisture, parts of Arkansas through the northern part of Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia into Tennessee. But here at home, still looking at pretty good amounts, at least the northern and central part of the area. These numbers are not perfect, and the general location may shift a little bit, but you get the idea. Rain chances look better for next week, but the focus still looks to be north and west of the wiregrass.
Yeah, and for deterministic models, that's usually, you know, what we're kind of looking out for. But this is a great little tool because, like you said, it really gives off a general picture of what we can expect. But maybe, hopefully, sometime soon we can get more of those purples into our area.
Exactly. Well, this goes through Wednesday. So as I mentioned before, you got that Tuesday, Wednesday rain chance for us. Maybe one next Thursday, which isn't reflected here. And then there could be another wave that comes in the following Saturday. So there's some more hope for some rainfall next week. Again,
let's hope.
happy weather, National Weather Person's Day.
That's awesome. Yeah, happy National Weather Person's Day to you too.
Thank you. We'll have more information coming up here tomorrow night on Weather Extra.